Right, and what do you believe about Jesus?
Well, with Jesus?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're diverting.
No,
right
just
now.
can you just answer my question?
Yes.
Because you were quite strict in me not interrupting or changing the subject. This is relevant. You're a Christian. Do you believe Jesus is God?
Yes, of course. God,
Right.
Jesus is
And you
God.
believe Jesus died on the cross for your sins?
Well, no.
You don't believe that?
Don't put words in
I'm
my
asking
mouth.
you.
No.
Do you believe that
No,
Jesus died on the cross for your
What do I believe regarding
sins?
Jesus? You can ask.
Yeah.
So I can tell you, Christ is that being.
Oh, no, don't. Thank you, Nazam. Do you believe Jesus died on the cross for your sins? Is my question to you.
Jesus showed us the way to overcome our mortal state. So right now, as you are, in present moment, you're in a mortal state, yes? We're all going to die.
Okay.
Hold on, you asked me a question. Christ showed us how to overcome it, how to overcome our mortal state.
How did dying on the
Just a
cross?
moment.
How did
He was
dying
the-
on
I'm
the
not
cross
finished, I'm about Jesus,
help
I'm
that?
trying to tell you. He's dying on the cross. His flesh died on the cross. However, Christ himself then descended into abyss
Right.
to resurrect every single holy prophet, every soul that experienced death, including Adam. So whoever experienced death was then brought out of abyss through Christ.
Okay.
Because
So-
he was the one. Hold on. He was
Yeah.
the only one with power to overcome death, and death was powerless in regards to his life.
I didn't ask. I think you're preaching a bit, which is your
No,
your
you're
right to
asking
do
me.
so.
You're asking me.
So the question is, why did Jesus die on the cross, in your view?
So I just told you.
What,
You didn't hear me.
No, I didn't. So explain again the beginning
Okay,
bit
I'm
of it.
very, very slow.
Please, yeah.
Because we are in a mortal state,
Yeah.
therefore we know what death is. Sooner or later, we're all going to experience death. Now, death itself is a being. It's a being which is going to claim you.
Death is a
Yes,
being.
Of course,
What-
it's
what
a
is-
being.
so de-
Everything is a being. Tree is a being.
So death
Nature
is a thing, is it?
Nature is a being. Sun is a being.
So death
Everything is a
has
being.
a personality, an ontology.
No, listen.
It has
Now you're
an
speaking-
existence,
now you're speaking
independent.
in a human way.
Yes,
It's
I
an
am. I'm a human
entity.
being. I can't help it.
Death is an entity. And because it's the same entity.
How can it be an entity?
Of course it's an entity.
What do you say, of
It's very
course?
simple because...
It's not a thing-
No,
let
give me an
me-
answer. Give me an answer. You ask it, how can it be entity? Because
I don't see how it's a thing.
you ask how can it be an entity, so let me tell you. Because before this world was created, everything that was created through eternal realms. And eternal realms in
Eternal-
itself
eternal
are
what?
eternal realms.
What's that
realms.
mean? Oh, realms.
Yes.
Sorry, yeah.
Now all those realms they're all actually filled with beings, and the being which human being knows is the being of death. Death itself, you can see it says in the Old Testament, which Muslims are supposed to follow, it says it entered. Then entered upon the eating the fruit of knowledge, death has entered. So actually, when you say to me, how can it be being? How can it enter the realm of
I don't
man?
think it says that in the
Of
Old
course it
Testament.
does. Read it.
I have.
Read it. It's the book of Genesis.
I'm not sure. I don't think it says that.
So the death is a being, and Christ
Okay.
showed us how to overcome our mortal state.
How did he show us to overcome our mortal state?
By renouncing ourselves in our present manifestation. Therefore, everything, because we all have sinful thoughts. We all have violent thoughts.
But
we all
how does Jesus do this? You give me the theory.
by renunciation.
What does that mean?
Self-renunciation.
Right.
Now
So how does
we're
Jesus?
renouncing-
Excuse me. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
I don't understand why, in your view, how Jesus' death affects that, because Jesus could just be a wise teacher who could teach us to deny ourselves, like the Prophet Muhammad did. You say,
No, that would be
like for example, we're not supposed to give in to our nafs, our desires. We're supposed to submit to God. Now, Jesus, of course, taught the same thing because he was a Muslim prophet. But what I don't understand is why in your
He was not a Muslim prophet. Go ahead.
excuse me. Why does Jesus have to die to demonstrate that when simply teaching it like
very
the
simple.
prophets say? I don't get it.
It's very simple. It's because Christ came to the world, as in his own words, he said, "Follow me. I am the way." So,
What is
hold
he the
on,
way
you're asking
to?
a question.
What is he the way
Hold
to?
on, you're asking a question.
What is he the way to? You don't ask. You're the
Listen,
preacher.
No, I'm not preaching. I'm trying to show you logic.
You are preaching.
I'm trying to show you logic, and I tell you why I'm not preaching. You're not going to hear it anywhere else.
We're very privileged, clearly. Very privileged.
Think for a moment of the women somewhere in Africa right now living in the worst hellholes in the world, where they're being raped towards dark, when they have no escape. Wouldn't they say, God, take this cup of suffering away from me? They would. So when Christ came to the world, he came and he addressed everyone. He came those who are being tortured, who are being abused, who are being killed, and those.
But how does he help them? How does he help people? How does he help people who are being tortured? I genuinely don't get this. A man who lived a man who lived 2,000 years ago, in your view, who died on a cross, in your view, somehow this helps a woman in Africa who's being tortured. Can you explain to me how? What is the connection?
What he meant when Christ, I told you, he said, I'm the way, the truth, the life.
What is he the way to? What is he the way to?
When he said the words to God.
Yeah.
So because we're in a mortal state, first you have to overcome mortal state. The reason why you don't see God right now, or the angels, or the heavenly realm.
But how does it help the woman being tortured? So coming back to your example, a woman in Africa being tortured, how does your belief in Jesus' death on the cross help this poor woman in Africa being tortured now? This is your example.
She knows what he meant.
What did he mean?
He meant that, the burden of evil in this world is so unbearable for any soul. So when this woman, for example, if she's being, let's say, tortured or raped, whatever else, when she knows that your words have been spoken, she said the same words, and the God has entered the heart of every human soul.
How is she helped?
She knows it.
No. How does
those words were never spoken?
What does she know? What does she know?
That the words came to the world. That she can relate to.
What can she? I don't get. What is she relating to that will help her being tortured?
The burden of evil.
Right. So I'm a woman being tortured, and I think, what to help me?
You think, of course, if you be really tortured, which obviously is being hypothetically right now, obviously, by the way you're ignorant by the posture, if you really will be tortured, you obviously want it to end. And if there will be no way for you to end it,
so how does,
because there will be no will.
How does your message help her?
No will.
No, I don't get it. How does your message help her being tortured?
It's because then she understands that actually that there's a path laid out, that she's going to lose hope when she's going to say, God, you must have abandoned me. So let's say she's a God-fearing woman.
She abandoned her.
You're asking a question. Okay. Let me give you an answer.
I'm just following it through very carefully in stages.
Yes, exactly.
Because I don't understand.
When you said, how would she be helped? Because she will know, let's say such a woman, for example, or child or man would feel, God, you must have abandoned me. You must. Let's say it's a God-fearing person. Yes. Mm-hmm. Let's say, what have I done to deserve this?
So she's abandoned.
Yes.
So
then she'll feel abandoned.
Right.
And those words also were spoken. So when Christ came to the world, it showed people the way that, yes, the soul going to experience hopelessness.
So how will she stop feeling abandoned? How will she stop feeling abandoned?
Let me just finish my sentence.
Okay.
They're going to experience hopelessness. Yeah. They're going to experience being abandoned. They experience all those things. And yet it's the path to God.
How is feeling? You see, what you said here is a woman who feels completely abandoned by God, and you think this is a path to God. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. And she's been tortured.
It makes sense.
I don't get it.
It makes sense because what the Christ said. You see, I understand you don't understand.
I don't.
Okay. Christ himself said these words: "My kingdom is not of this world."
Yeah.
Whoever belongs to God does not belong here.
So remember, we're talking about a woman in Africa who's been tortured.
If you have a fridge full of food,
how is she helped by that?
House, that means you belong here.
All right.
If your fridge is empty, if you're hungry, if you're an orphan, if you're hopeless, that means that this is not your world, and that means when God said, "My world is not of this world," that means you belong to God.
He's a Gnostic Christian.
Right, I'm not being funny here, and I'm not very bright. I actually don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand how a woman who's been tortured in Africa could have this kind of knowledge, that's Gnosticism.
Not knowledge. She speaks the same words like Christ.
Yes, but you see, if a woman says and feels, I'm abandoned by God, she's not helped in any way. Her situation is made even worse by despair and alienation. I don't understand how this is in any way helpful in your religion. It doesn't sound your religion is very helpful.
It's because I told you believe that this world is the world that God has created. However,
you don't?
Just a moment.
You don't believe that?
Just a moment, please. when Satan tempted Christ, what did he do? He took him up the mountain. He showed all the kingdoms of this world, and what did he say? All this was handed down to me. I will give it all to you if you bow down and worship me. Therefore, who is the ruler of this world? Yes, it's Satan.
Okay.
And what I'm saying to you, whoever is actually rejected by this world, that means that's already an indication for you that belongs to the world of the kingdom of God.
I'll just say my final thing here. I've asked you repeatedly to explain how, in your example, not mine, a woman who's been tortured in Africa, I'm not quite sure why Africa's got to do with it, but
why not?
But she's being tortured. You offer her a religion or a worldview that says she will be despairing, she will be alienated from God, and this will somehow be her salvation. But you've not, in my view, explained how at all. So therefore, I'm now going to thank you very much for explaining all this to me. I'm going to end the conversation,
right?
because I don't think you have explained.
Amazing.
So there you go. Maybe other people can understand. I don't understand.
I think stones will move faster than you, which is quite incredible. But it's okay. Enjoy yourself.
You really think so?
And it's good to be insulted by a Christian at the very end, isn't it?
Yeah, it's comparing stones to humans.